G'day, guys. Welcome to the return of Ferg's Footy Fanfare. We are joining you for the first time in 2022, leading into Sir Doug Nichols' round for the AFL season. So, joining me by my side, as usual, I've got Jay.
Thanks, Serge. Thanks for the introduction. A little bit rusty. We'll get back
A little
into
bit
it.
rusty.
But
Yeah.
I tell you what, 2021, we had a lot of things on. I know that I, for one, wasn't talking about the footy as much, given St Kilda's poor drop-off. But we're back and we're ready to do this. So let's go and get straight into it, I say.
Yeah, both of our respective sides have got a bit of a head of steam going at the moment. Both teams looking pretty good. So, one real topic of debate, and it's probably been the most talked about thing on social media I've seen, is the state of the game. Obviously, we had the umpire dissent come in. That rule come in, pretty much, you're not allowed to make eye contact pretty much now with an umpire about it. How do you see the state of the game is now with this umpire dissent rule?
I think they've found somewhat of a comfortable middle ground. I think that initially it was probably an overcorrection, and that needed to cool off a little bit. So you still see a few instances that are getting a fair bit of social media recognition for the wrong reasons. But I'm interested about the state of the game because the AFL this week's outlined that it's the lowest crowd figures they've had in 27 years, was it? Or something along those lines.
Yep.
And they've put out 3 free rounds of footy for children under the age of 17. So what do you think that comes down to?
So we'll ask you that later on, what it comes down to. Obviously, COVID is one excuse that's been brought, especially with Western Australia only operating at 50% until about 3-4 weeks ago. They're only rocking at 50% crowds. Obviously, West Coast Eagles have been underperforming, and we know that they're a big club that draw a lot of fans. But yeah, I think there's lots of other things. I think going to the footy is not very cheap. And I think also another thing that I've noticed, so I've only been to the one game this year, obviously with you last weekend, that it's actually not bad sitting at home and watching it on the telly. Like, we get really good telly coverage, and yeah, I sometimes just can't be bothered to go to the football when it's, so good to watch on the telly.
I agree. I think that that's something that COVID has really acclimatized us to, that ability to, especially for someone like you that's on the outer suburbs and well out west past Geelong, to actually get to a game. And when you're seeing you can get a subscription for around $20 a month that gets you, all games of footy live and free, it's hard to pass up. And as you start heading into the middle of winter, you look out on a Sunday afternoon, you see and it's pissing down with rain at the MCG, you feel a little bit less likely to go, rather just watch it in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, exactly right. Hit the nail on the head there. I'm trying to think of any other reasons why crowd numbers would be down.
I know North Melbourne have been playing quite a few games in Tasmania. Not that they're a huge influx of crowd numbers when they're playing in Melbourne, but I think they still average higher crowd numbers at Marvel as opposed to when they're in Tassie.
And obviously, St Kilda selling that game off to Cairns against Port Adelaide. Probably, go back. That game probably draws nearly 30,000 fans, and I don't know what the attendance was in Cairns, but I think the attendance in Cairns I don't think it's anything more than 12,000. So.
I have a feeling that it was 13,000, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So another thing that's been on the agenda, especially in the last few weeks, giving his appearance on AFL 360, was Alistair Clarkson about his aspirations for coaching again in 2023 or beyond. Obviously, the Gold Coast job was looking very favourable, but given the Gold Coast have pulled off 2 really good wins against, we'd say, genuine contenders, I should say. You'd say Stuart Dew's pretty safe. Obviously, we've had the GWS unfolding. Do you reckon Clarkson gets a coaching gig, say, in 2023, 24 or 25?
Look, I think there's going to be what we've seen at GWS might be the beginning of the exodus of coaches, all vying for that potential signing of Alistair Clarkson. I think that I've heard on Fox Footy, there's been 16 clubs that have asked about him. And to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if all of them have at one stage or another. I think that he'll be a coach next year. Who for? I don't know. I don't think he's going to be coaching Gold Coast. But in saying that, it'll be very important to see how Gold Coast finishes out the year. They've got a track record of starting off well and then dipping off after the first 6 rounds. They've managed to maintain it this season thus far. Like you said, a really good win against Sydney away from home, and then a dominant performance against Fremantle. And who knows, they're fighting in that 6th to 12th range. And I think that if they play that like they have the last 2 weeks, they'll be in finals contention. I think they'll play finals.
Yeah, going on with the Gold Coast. So with those 2 big wins, I know we've always, really since their inception, we've always sort of been reluctant to heavy criticism on the Gold Coast because obviously their lack of star power and all that. But I think what I think, and I'm going to ask you this, but with those 2 wins, I reckon there's no excuses now. I think most games at home, they should be winning. They knocked off Carlton as well.
Yeah,
at home.
And they were really competitive against Melbourne.
And they were competitive against Collingwood at the MCG. So I think there is no excuses for the Gold Coast this year. If it all goes pear-shaped from here, Stewie Jew's job will be up for discussion. But
so based on that, Ned, let's just say that no excuses on the table. They maintain a healthy list like they've got at the moment. Do you think that it's 8th or top 8 or bust?
No. I think there's too many teams in that bracket that are pushing for finals. I mean, you're trying to squeeze. I mean, there's probably 4, 5 teams that are above everyone else, but really, except for North Melbourne and West Coast, everyone else is vying for the 8. So obviously, someone's going to have to miss out. I think if Gold Coast, end up being 3rd bottom or somewhere like that, yes, there'll be questions asked. But I think if they finish in that, 9 to 11 bracket, I could not see a justification for his job being lost unless, they dish out a few dismal performances.
Yeah, I think that it'd have to be a more thorough analysis rather than just the ladder position, and circumstances that get in the way. But at the moment, there's nothing that could rule Stewie Jew out for not coaching next year.
Exactly. And to make finals, especially to sneak into 8th, you have to be really lucky. If we're going to backtrack to last year. So both our sides missed out on the 8. Essendon made the 8. Do you reckon that Essendon team was better than St Kilda or Richmond that year?
In the moment, in the way that they played throughout that season, I do think so.
I tend to disagree, but it's just all about having the favourable draw and having all that, just having that bit of luck on your side. And that's realistically what you need. If you're going to sneak into the 8, you need to have that luck on your side.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It doesn't hurt.
So moving forward, who surprised you this year in a positive and negative way?
I've been really positively surprised by Sydney. I thought that they've continued to develop at quite an incredible rate compared to what we saw from them in 2020. I know that they had a good season last year. Probably disappointing for them to get knocked out in an elimination final. But to, really solidify themselves as top 4 contenders as well, with a lot of their younger players doing a lot more work. You've got Logan McDonald that's getting a game every week now. You've got Rowbottom, who's going to miss out tonight, but he's starting to show a lot more. And Hayward's becoming really explosive in front of goals. So I think they've surprised me for the good. And then I think the obvious one, and I'm going to put my head up and steal it before you do, is Essendon. Just a dramatic drop-off from what we saw from them last year. A loss of aggression, a loss of desire to hunt the ball, a loss of efficiency going forward. It's just nothing working for him at the moment.
Yeah, so for mine, in a positive way, Carlton's been they've been a real standout. I mean, this has been brewing for so many years. It was probably all just a matter of time when it all comes together, and it's crazy when it comes together how well it comes together. They still have their faults. I think they still can't put together 4 quarters of solid football. Another team that's really surprised me watching from early in the preseason, I think Hawthorne has been a real surprise package. I watched them play Richmond in the preseason, and to be honest, Richmond didn't come out of second gear, and I thought, Hawthorne, they're going to be in a world of trouble. They'll be competing with North Melbourne for the bottom of the ladder, but they've been really competitive. They coughed up one against Essendon the other week, but they've had good wins. Like they had a good win against Port. They were pretty competitive against Richmond last week. So, they haven't had that many really bad games. So it's really good to see they're developing along all right. And then for the negative for mine is Western Bulldogs.
Yeah.
You make a grand final last year, and they've lost to a few teams like Richmond and Carlton. But they've lost other games as well. But yes, Bulldogs for mine. You make a grand final, you expect them to be up there again, and to be honest, I can't see them pushing any further than 6th at this rate.
It's what a poor start does to your season. I think Port Adelaide are in the same boat, although they've done a really good job to bring it around and start getting some wins on the board. I just wanted to touch on Carlton, because what Carlton have shown through quite a few weeks, and they're going to have to show for the next 6 weeks or so, is that they're able to do it when they've got injuries to their key players. So we've seen
no Williams, no Mackay.
Yeah, and we've seen there's been a few times this season where Cripps has been underdone or he's been out, and they've still managed to get the job done. So I think it's a real show of character. It might not lead to ultimate glory this year, but you look at their squad, and then once you get that belief and chemistry between the two, I think it's danger signs for the competition.
So do you think I don't think this year is the year, but do you think maybe next year after they're grand final worthy?
I think they've got the list for it. I think they've got the
spine
list for it. Yeah,
they've got the spine, in my opinion.
That's right. If you look at each third of the ground, they've got stars in all of them. So, on paper, they're one of the best looking teams. But this is a good segue to our point next about some really good teams that are in the AFL.
Yeah. So obviously at the moment it's pretty much a 17-team competition. Melbourne's just left ahead of everyone. Who's one that's going to catch them? Who do you think's the one that's going to knock off Melbourne?
I think the only team at the moment that can beat Melbourne is Brisbane. And I think they would have to be playing in Brisbane. I think that's the only way. Melbourne will slip up a game at some stage, but they're just such a classy unit at the moment. And in the majority of the games they've played, they haven't got out of second gear. I thought they played really well against the Dogs after being challenged in that second quarter. Probably Gold Coast has given them the best run for their money. Richmond gave them a really good run in the first half. But I have not personally in my lifetime seen a team play this well as Melbourne's doing right now. I think they're head and shoulders above. And then Brisbane, who are also playing really good football, they're playing attacking, high scoring, and they're kicking straight. It makes such a difference because they've had their woes in front of goal. I think they're the only team that can beat Melbourne.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Brisbane look the most likely. I think any team on their day can beat anyone if someone's having an off day, but this Melbourne team are doing it really easily. And I just want to ask you a question. If you just could put your Melbourne fan hat on, which I know would be hard, does it concern you that they're doing it this easy, that it could penultimately lead to a slip up once the pressure kicks in, the heat goes up? Do you think that there could be potential for a crack?
Yeah, I do. I think that's possible. I would like to compare it perhaps with St Kilda of 2009 to go through a whole season, largely undefeated. And I think sometimes teams need a loss, just a little kick back to reality to say, hang on, we can't let this happen. But look, at the moment, they look like they're a professional enough squad with Goodwin and his coaching panel around him. to suggest that they wouldn't let it get to that stage. And there hasn't been anything to show that yet, where there's been a real stretch of dominance from another team, other than that 10-minute period against Bulldogs in round one.
Yeah, they're a good team, Melbourne, and it'd be a big shock if we don't see them on the last Saturday in September.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the way that Richmond was playing in 2018. Not the style or anything, but just the sheer dominance. I remember watching Richmond in 2018 thinking, who's going to beat these guys? And it was just one half where one team was on and one team was off that really changed it. So it will take something like that.
Yeah. So speaking of the grand final, it was confirmed today that the grand final we played at 2:30. So Gillis kept the Boomers happy again for one more year in his last year in charge. Are you happy with the 2:30 time slot at the moment?
I do like the 2:30 time slot. I think if anything has taught us from COVID, it's that it's difficult going the whole day. It's a long day when the footy's not being played in the afternoon. I like the idea of going for lunch, going for a barbecue, having a kick of the footy at halftime at 3:30 and all that. So I like the 2:30. I think that it's bad for time zones if you want to globalize the game. And I think that was where the inkling was coming from to move it to twilight, especially with these TV rights deals that are expected to bring in a lot of coin for the AFL.
Yeah, so speaking about coin for the AFL, there's been obviously the AFL I think they've had a meeting today, the clubs. Few teams are reluctant for a 19th license to be granted to Tasmania. I could probably see those reluctant clubs being maybe North Melbourne and Gold Coast.
Could you help clarify? Could you just help clarify why? I don't know exactly why they're reluctant against it. Do you know?
I think Gold Coast would be because of the financial side of things, and I think North Melbourne would be a similar thing. I think North Melbourne make pretty good coin out of playing home games down in Tasmania. Obviously, North Melbourne are back in the positive, but I think there must be a decent cash grab if they're still doing it. But for mine, I think it's a no-brainer, the Tasmanian team. And I think it should have happened before Gold Coast, should have happened before GWS. And for me, I think it's only a matter of time. I think it will happen. What's your takes on it?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a no-brainer. I think that any chance you get to improve outreach to the game and you get to further develop juniors in areas that aren't accustomed to an AFL team, I think why not? And I think that it's logical that Tasmania's the next team to have it.
And I think it's not going to be as financially damaging as what Gold Coast or Greater Western Sydney would be. Gold Coast and Greater Western Sydney are sitting in the low teens in memberships. I think Tasmania come in, I think they easily start out with probably 15,000 members. And given how well their program goes early on, we could be looking at 20, 25,000 members.
Yeah. I think why not? I mean, it's to have all inclusiveness, regardless of what part of Australia you're in, to go and have a team to support. I'm all for it. So I think that, there should 100% be a 19th team. And I would go as drastic to say that soon there should be a 20th team, but obviously that won't be. Who
would be the 20th team?
Look, logistically, it's probably a bit of a nightmare, but I would pick Darwin or Northern Territory, something like that, to have all inclusive in Australia.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't know what the financial viability of Northern Territory would be, to be honest, but
now
that seems like.
While we're talking about finances, I want to get to you can't be doing that. But first time back, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to say you can be doing that because they've organised the pay of the AFLW, and top notch to everyone involved with the Players Association, the AFL and the AFLW. Look, they've around the entire board, they've provided a 94% pay increase, which means that the minimum wage for an AFLW player is just a tad under $40,000, which I think, it's a step in the right direction. It's not the end result, but it provides so much more for security for these young athletes. and these women that are really trying to improve. And it gives a greater notion for developments in the grassroots area, to give something that, you know, you can strive to be an AFLW footballer and have that as your main profession. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree. You know, we're always talking about improving the game in AFLW, and it will happen. But I think, yes, more cash injection to these players so they're not having to work as much, so they have more time to focus on being solely a professional AFLW player. Yeah, it'll help improve with more training and more resources put in as well. I think that it's a really good idea. So then they're not working, you know, 5 days a week. So, you know, they can be training 3 nights a week and, you know, be focused on what they want to do. And I think it's good. It'll only do good for the game.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
So moving on, this is a new segment we brought in. I think a few radio shows, a few podcasts do it. We might as well jump on board. So we've got the Nuffy of the Week. So we're going to each give our Nuffy of the Week. I'll ask you first, and then I'll give you mine. So it's pretty much, if you don't know what a Nuffy is, just someone that's a bit silly. So Jay, you can carry away with your Nuffy of the Week.
Yeah, I've got to diss one of my own this time. My Nuffy of the Week goes out to Sam Fisher, former St Kilda player, former legend in the backline, really. God, he was much loved by everyone, but he's gone and done himself a mischief. He's got caught up in drugs and he's been arrested and charged on Tuesday night, I believe, with something like $129,000 in cash and a bunch of methamphetamine. So it goes to show, you know, you can ruin your reputation just like that. And a guy that was, you know, much loved by a football club and the community now has got himself into a really tricky position. And, you know, he's gonna have that tainting his reputation for the rest of his life, rather than being, you know, an A-grade footballer.
Yeah, so my Nuffy of the Week, I've gone Dyson Heppel. So I watched on the couch. Now on the couch, you know, he's still in a pretty family-friendly time slot, I should say. To come on, being leader of your club and being a role model, coming on and dropping the F-bomb a couple of times is not... I can understand his way of trying to say that they're serious about it, they're being honest, but you're a leader of your club, you're a role model... You should be doing it, and you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. And I think it's just really stupid and it's really, really unprofessional.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I was interested when I heard you saying Dyson Heppel, I was thinking, oh, where's he going with this? Because I like the idea of the captain going out and speaking to the media when they're under the pump and all that. But you're right, it's 6:30, you know, and I know that he's speaking with raw emotion, but you've got to keep it contained to a certain extent. You can't be dropping F-bombs.
Absolutely. Time and a place. That's not, and yes, I do agree with you that it's good for him to front the media, but the idea is right. The execution was absolutely bloody terrible.
Agreed.
So move on to a segment which is based around me. It's so you've got Jay's, you can't be doing that. We're gonna have Ned's rant. And this one hits close sort of to me and the football club I support. So the whole media upbeat about Dustin Martin. I'm sick of checking my phone every lunch break and all that. Every time I scroll onto Facebook, it's Dustin Martin's going to Sydney. Dustin Martin's doing that. Dustin Martin's doing this. You read the articles, and I'll call out Tim Watson on this. Read the article. Quote, I think, I believe. Why are you writing this complete, utter bullcrap if you don't have any facts? Now, yes, Dustin did go away to Sydney, as if he wouldn't, in his, you know, with his social status. If he was to hang around Melbourne, there'd be cameras following him everywhere. So he's just gone away to Sydney. I mean, less people would know who he is. Well, people would know who he is, but there wouldn't be cameras on him. No one would give a flying hoot. So he's just going to get out of the limelight. And my other thing is he's got a lot of property investments and all that in Melbourne. So I think just let it be. Just let this year ride out. But yeah, I'm really bloody pissed off with all this. And but out of all this, I'm pretty sanguine that he'll stay.
Well done. I like that. More of it, Ned. That was class, absolute class. You're right. It's because he's the greatest. He's arguably one of the greatest we've seen, and any kind of movement that he'll make will dictate how media perceives it. But there needs to be less speculation, more hard facts. The bloke goes to Sydney, he can go to Sydney. Doesn't mean he's going out and bloody scouting what the training hole's looking like.
Yeah, it's got me hit for 6. So another popular one, always a good laugh. We got Mark's multi back.
Yes. All right. He's had become a millionaire. What do we got?
Okay, so Mark sent me through this one this afternoon. So this is on tonight's game, the Carlton and Sydney game that we are talking just beforehand. So it's a 7-leg same game multi.
Ooh.
So Callum Mills to get 25 or more disposals. Adam Cherry to get 25 or more disposals. Charlie Curnow to score 2 or more goals. Patrick Cripps, anytime goal scorer.
Okay.
Isaac Heaney, anytime goal scorer. Will Hayward, anytime goal scorer. And Sam Walsh to get 30 or more touches.
Now, Ned, they all seem like really reasonable bets. What is that pulling?
According to Mark, it's $10.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to make a quick acquisition and purchase some multis.
Put the house on it.
Yeah, bloody hell. Good on Mark. We're going to have to get some kind of little skit or cartoon for him to come in.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
That would be cool. So another segment. Well, I just thought of this just to chew up a bit of time. It's yes or no. So pretty much, I'm just going to give you a few questions.
Yeah.
And I just want a definite yes or no. I don't want any maybes. I don't want any elaborations. I just want yes or no.
Done. Let's go.
Black or white. It's pretty straightforward. Okay.
Yeah.
Twilight Grand Final next year.
No.
Tasmania confirmed by this year.
Yes.
Port Adelaide to make the 8.
Yes.
Western Bulldogs to make the 8.
Yes.
Richmond to make the 8.
Yes.
Melbourne go undefeated.
No.
Cripps wins the Brownlow.
Yes. Done. Lock it away. Sorry.
Dusty goes to Sydney.
No.
St Kilda make the 8.
Yes.
Blues make the top 4.
Yes.
Brisbane make the grand final.
Yes.
Crowd lows are due to COVID.
Yes.
Crowd lows are due to the state of the game.
No.
Crowd lows due to the cost of going to the game.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Was Tom Mitchell's incident with the umpire earlier this season, was that considered dissent?
It was. It shouldn't have been. It's not.
Yeah, I think that was overboard, that Mitchell decision. But pretty much that's the end of yes or no. And also, unfortunately, that's the end of the return show for Ferg's Footy Fanfare. It's been good to get back into it, Jay. Hopefully, we find a steady routine of being able to do this. That's been primarily the reason we haven't been able to do this, unfortunately, as much as we love doing it. It's just finding the time to discuss, the time to plan and all that. So, we're going to do our best to try and do it every week. If we can't, don't hit on us. But yeah, that's all we got to say. Thank you very much for joining back in. Jay, if you got anything else to add?
No, it's great to be back. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And yeah, situations during last year made it difficult, but we love providing to ourselves and to the people. So hopefully it does, take up its weekly form as it once did in 2020 and returns to its former glory.
Yes. So anyway, we're out for tonight. Enjoy the footy.
Thank you. See you.